I finally got my hands on Gigabyte's new graphics card, the RTX 2060 Super Gaming OC model, so let's check it out. Hello guys, Matthew here and welcome back again to my channel. With Nvidia releasing their Super series of GPUs based on the existing and currently ongoing RTX models, sort of like a one-up versions of the originals, right away their board partners introduced a couple of their own models for this series, one of which is this RTX 2060 Super model from Gigabyte. Be sure to subscribe to my channel down below because I'm also going to take a look at their RTX 2070 Super model, so you don't miss out on that. This gaming OC model is basically their strongest model in this lineup. The only one that tops it out with features is the Aorus version of it, while you can also choose between the white color for this model if it suits your build better. Overall, this triple fan cooler design reminds me of their last generation of WindForce models, seen on Nvidia's GTX 1000 series, with some subtle changes, different contours and lines, and without those orange stripes on it. Of course, Gigabyte logo still lights up and has this dedicated silver grey surface which it sits on, while they've got rid of the fan stop indicator, which was also part of the RGB LED lighting. Underneath that plastic outer shell, which I might add feels a bit on the cheaper side in terms of the perceived build quality, we have a big aluminum heatsink which is divided in three parts, so to speak. Those sections are interconnected with four copper heat pipes which go directly onto the GPU itself, while other parts of the cooler are also making direct contact with the video memory, power design and VRMs. For cooling all of that, as you can see here, we have three 80mm fans in charge, one of which, the middle one, is turning in the opposite direction, which, as Gigabyte claims it, reduces turbulence and enhances the airflow pressure. Taking a look from the side, beside that Gigabyte logo which I've mentioned before, you can also see that we have one 6-pin and one 8-pin additional PCI Express power supply connector. You can also notice that the card is actually only 2 slots in height, which is becoming a rare sight nowadays, especially when the more powerful models are in question. Turning the graphics card onto its other side, we have a metal backplate which is almost completely covering the PCB and carries Gigabyte logo on it, while having a pretty straightforward design. Finally, we have a video output setup consisting out of 2 display ports, one HDMI and one Type-C virtual link for connecting a VR headset. The configuration which I used in this review can be found in the description box down below, and in case you are thinking of buying this particular GPU and have doubts about the compatibility, please do let me know in the comments down below and I will help you out. And now, let's check the performance of the card. Gigabyte's RTX 2060 Super Gaming OC comes in with a pretty impressive factory overclock right out of the box, bumping the GPU boost clock from 1650 MHz to 1815 MHz, which kicks its performance up a notch. Looking at the results, it's clear that this GPU without a problem chews up any game at 1080p resolution at high settings, spitting out very high frame rates, which makes it ideal for those high refresh rate gaming monitors. 1440p resolution tones that down a bit, but it still provides more than a good experience, usually hanging above the 60 FPS mark. Incorporating some manual overclocking into it, I was able to squeeze out additional performance out of it, around 5 to 10%, using these settings shown here in Gigabyte's Aorus engine software utility. With this kind of overclocking setup, the GPU clock was roaming around 2000 to 2050 MHz, while the memory was effectively brought up to 15.2 GHz. As for the GPU temperatures, you can see here that when idling the GPU was just below 50 degrees Celsius mark, which is on the higher side, but it's also to be expected considering that it's passively cooled on account of the 0 RPM fan mode when the GPU is not under load. That's Gigabyte's 3D active fan feature, and this can vary depending on your configuration and chassis fan setup. Putting it under load, when gaming and doing some Unigine Heaven benchmark runs, it was sitting just below the 70 degrees Celsius mark, with the fan speed being around 1600 to 1800 RPM, while during Firmax stress test the GPU just throttles down to keep the temperature and the fan speed basically the same as with a normal type of load. When it comes to noise that these fans made, it is somewhat noticeable on an open test bed, which is to be expected considering that we have 3 fans and that they're running at speeds above 1600 RPM under load, but it's still not something that will be considered as distracting, especially once you put the graphics card in a chassis. Here's a short sound clip of the card under load while also showing the sound meter for measurement comparison. Lastly, in terms of power consumption, when it comes to this particular configuration and this GPU, I've seen it mostly roaming around 300 watts under full load during gaming. Overall, I feel like Gigabyte did a pretty good job of rounding up this model. I didn't have any major complaints about it whatsoever, everything is in place. The only thing that I would question is if it can justify its a bit higher price compared to its non-super brother, especially if you know that you don't need that kind of performance. If you're only aiming to satisfy your 1080p needs, maybe take a look at the GTX 1660 series. I'll put my review of one in the right top corner of this video if you want to check it out. That's it guys for this time from me. Thank you once again for watching. Feel free to toss me a thumbs up if you like what you saw, that really helps me a lot. And if you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe, and if you already are, be sure to press that notification bell down below so you don't miss out on a new video. And until then, catch you later guys.